You wouldn't think that someone who is as introverted as I am would have as much to say as I do. I don't talk much in society. I listen more than I talk. I don't actually know what I think sometimes when somebody asks me. I kind of have to gestate. I kind of have to sit on it for a while before I know. Writing really helps because I can sit down and take an hour or hour and a half and write on a subject that seems interesting to me at the moment and learn something. When you're in society, what I'm calling in society, meeting people you don't know very well, even meeting friends and talking to people that you've known a long time, you can say things that when you think them through, you realize you don't really believe, that they just were shallow. And so the way I do a YouTube video is I refer back to something I wrote because that is something that actually has a bit more thought in it, a bit more investigation. I actually followed a train of thought to the point where usually, at least, I find some insight. Responding spontaneously to someone over coffee at a party, whatever, it usually doesn't go that deep. I can appear to be a fairly shallow person if you don't spend much time with me and you don't allow me to take my time to think something over. That's what writing does. I can distill something because I can consider every word, every sentence, every paragraph as a contribution to the search for, and it can be a, a search for an unknown thing in the beginning. I don't even know where I'm going, but eventually, by the end of the piece, there's a resolution, and that resolution is very often an insight. It's something I hadn't really put words to, but I've come to a realization that this is something I need to consider, something that has motivated my life more than I realized, something that is operating in society and the world that I hadn't quite seen very clearly, but it comes clear when I write. Now, painting was always something that I was searching for an image. And sometimes that image comes right out. And very often it does not come out. You have to keep going back to it and back to it and back to it. And eventually you can either destroy it completely or it'll evolve into something. And it's always different from what you thought you were doing. It is something that a deep part of yourself really wanted to see. Well, that's kind of how we live in a way. We try things, they don't work, we revise, we try again, and eventually, if we stick with it and we don't give up, we actually accomplish something. We actually realize something. We manifest a reality, a new reality into the world. And it's not from our conscious ego, it's not from ego consciousness, it's from some deep part of ourselves that has something to say. And the work of giving it voice is not easy. It's something that artists do, but it's not as easy as you think. You don't just sit down and paint a beautiful picture, at least not usually. It can happen. Um, Sometimes you just align with all the forces and it'll just jump right out of you. But usually it's a bit of a struggle. And if you commit yourself to that struggle, knowing that it can go nowhere and you won't know what happened, but sometimes it does go somewhere and you're very happy with it because you actually learned something, then the discipline is kind of a no-brainer. It's something that you know you have to do. You have to show up and follow through on a regular basis. You can't do this once a year. You have to do it every day or as often as possible, even when it doesn't pan out. So that's kind of the creative process. Somebody called me an intellectual once, and I resist that term because I feel like I'm an artist. And what an artist does is different from what an intellectual does. I go very much by instinct. I go very much by feel. And the path is dark, and I'm feeling my way along. And sometimes I get lost, and sometimes I get found. But um, I'm not very logical. I'm not someone who lives in ideas and conclusions and abstractions. I'm someone who goes pretty much by a kinetic process, even in writing. I need to have some kind of physical um, activity going on. And that actually produces something. That is part of the creative process. I realize what is going on in the world now is people are becoming more and more abstract, and they are becoming less and less tactile, less and less kinetic, less and less physical in their processes. But I hold to the old processes of creating out of your body. Your body knows things. I really believe that. And it has a voice that it needs to be allowed to speak, encouraged to speak. And that is a part of my creative process, and I recommend it. That's all I'm going to say tonight.